they went out and made this statement. I think this was at the same time the January 6th committee hearing was going on, that they had this brilliant idea that they were going to come out and give us all what for. And for the record, I'd like everyone to pay special attention. Now, I've not watched this. As you know, I don't pre-watch this stuff. I've not watched this. But one of the things I would like you to pay attention to is Representative Paul Gosar back there. He's a Republican from Pervitin, Iowa. And if you'll notice him, he's twitchy. I don't know if it's tardive dyskinesia from antipsychotics or if he's straight up found an old batch of Pervitin and he's been truffle rooting in it. I don't know. Yeah, I did say Pervitin. That's right. Let's just see. By the way, and this ends well, I hear.
As you can see, we weren't even Congress representing districts with hundreds of thousands of people. It's unbelievable to me that the Department of Justice will not let us in their law.
That is somebody desperately trying to get the breakdown of Paradise City started. And nothing's worse than blowing into your gym whistle and not hearing that turn around.
Lobby to even answer our questions.
Yeah, it sounds doubled to me too, and I'm not quite sure why. It's hard to even tell. I don't know what's going on. It's such a weird piece of hell. Oh, baby. Let's see if it works again. Let's see if this fits it. I have so many things going on at once.
Questions that we've been asking.
Oh, that's a straight up delay. That's not going to work. Okay. Turn that guy off. The slapback. I have to fix that. That's on me. It's more tolerable than the other stuff. So
intelligence was available prior to January 6th regarding the influx of people into the District of Columbia and their intentions. You see, we already know that intelligence knew. They knew ahead of time that there were threats of violence. And I have to tell you, as a freshman member of Congress, that was the fourth day on my job, January 6th, and I was shocked.
Yeah, amazed of the turnout, the love fest.
Absolutely shocked at what happened at the Capitol. And even more so, I am shocked that with the intelligence that there was going to be violence, that the National Guard was not present on January.
Sorry, the National Guard was not going to be present? Who gave the stand-down order on the National Guard?
January 6th.
2 days before?
On January 5th.
So they could not and would not be allowed to have defensive or offensive gear, and that they couldn't be anywhere near the Capitol? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We know that there were pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC. There's a video of the person that placed them there. And I'd like to know, and we're asking the question, with that great threat of violence, pipe bombs at both places, RNC and DNC, why was it not taken seriously? And why wasn't the national...
Excuse me, Marge, why are you interrupting this woman's rendition of a beautiful American song with your seditious words?
Brought in. Those are the questions that we have. Also, when the Capitol Police requested to Nancy Pelosi on January 6th, asking her office, asking her for the National Guard on January 6th, why wasn't that request made? Why did the National Guard not come in to protect the Capitol Police?
Yeah, why?
Police and all of us.
I don't know. Is Christopher Miller? You guys all know him. You guys all know Christopher Miller. You've hung out with him.
Side. You see, currently there's a January 6th committee happening with Nancy.
Yeah, you're not on it.
Pelosi.
I don't know if it's Parkinson's. I think it's too overall, like full. Well, you'll see.
Leading it, in some sort of manner where she doesn't want Republicans that are picked by the minority leader placed on the committee.
Some people are just dancing to their own music. You know what I mean?
These are
He's
all
actually, how can you not hear that whistle and the singing and not start dancing, Paul Gosar?
good questions that we should be asking, and I'm happy to be joined with my colleagues here. We want to know, how are the detainees being treated inside the jail?
Detainees. Detainees. Hey, fuckstick. They're defendants. Detainees. They're not being detained. They've been arrested. They are not foreign forces. God damn.
Jail. We would like
Honest to God. That's
how are the
that's not
to be joined with my colleagues here. We want to know, how are the detainees being treated?
not detainees. Defendants. These are people who've been arrested for violent crimes. Shut the fuck up.
Inside the jail. We would like to know many other things.
I agreed. I want to know many other things. Like, can we see Jeff Greenberg's texts on Matt Gaetz's phone to see if they match up with the ones that were on Greenberg's? Because I don't think Greenberg erased any of his. I want to see which one of his texts with Jeff Greenberg, Matt Gaetz erased. Also, if Paul Gosar gave any of those tours on January 4th and 5th. Also, what the hell happened to Louis Gohmert's tooth? Inquiring minds want to know.
So at this time, I'd
Also, sex guru? Really? Really?
like to hand over to the next person.
Yeah, the next person. Well organized. There's not like a list or anything.
Hi.
Hi.
Yep, we have gotten reports about.
There is a bicuspid on the loose. Found it. Shit. It's getting away. Get him. The suckers crawl away. They look like little ticks.
Mistreatment in the jail, people being shipped to jails all over.
Shipped to jails all over. Why are you picking now to come out against cash bail?
And it is important to know the conditions in jail. We've asked for an opportunity to inspect the jails.
Yes, Louis Gohmert, I would love for you to have an opportunity to inspect the jails for like 5 to 7 years. It seems like a good round number. I mean, I don't know what the minimum is. Ask Matt. Matt can inspect the jails. Toilets, showers, license plate factory.
Back when I
The laundry and the sheets.
was a felony judge, I would show up unannounced at jails or prisons because I
Yeah, ask Matt Gaetz. He's going to show up unannounced at a jail too.
needed to know what kind of treatment people got that go in there.
And you were disappointed that they weren't being beaten with a segment of rubber hose. Is this?
you know, when you have people that will probably be arrested here for disorderly conduct, we need to make sure that the jails are treating them properly when they're arrested. But
You mean an orderly arrest for someone who's being disorderly? I'm sure you wanted the same for everyone who's engaged in a George Floyd protest last year. I mean,
condemn any violence, and I would have
any violence. Just while we're at it. I mean, nobody's perfect.
no problem at all if I were still on the bench sending anybody that participated in violence, theft, any of the trespasses that knowingly did so.
Yeah, anybody who knowingly stole or something, or were knowingly violent, or knowingly trespassed past a gate where cops were beaten with the gate. Are his teeth still in? I'm afraid to look. All right.
I'd have no problem sending them to jail. That would not be an issue. So we got to make sure that people like this here that are acting disorderly, that they're treated fairly when they get to jail.
Yes, we need an orderly treatment of those who are being disorderly.
We have been asking for months for meetings with the Attorney General.
By the way, how many bet right now that all of them want the person blowing the whistle beaten within an inch of their life for disorderly conduct? How much of this? We need to make sure that people that are just involved in it, like knowingly or unknowingly blowing a whistle, need to be treated with dignity and respect. Except, can somebody gutter stomp that fuck right now? Dink. I mean, Louie's not going to yell at him. He'll lose a tooth.
We have asked in letters to the D.C. jail and been refused. The D.C. jail prison.
The D.C. jail prison. Don't expect a former judge to know that all this mumbo jumbo about the legal system.
Under the auspices of the federal prison system, and yet we've been denied that.
Because they're in a city jail or a state jail?
They want no oversight. They don't want to give information.
That's what they're there for. Oversight. Yeah, we're checking all the cells. I mean, not all the cells. Just with people singing YMCA to themselves while pissing themselves in a corner. Anybody in that situation, they need to be shipped to Club Fed right away. Can we get these people to minimum security? I mean, all they did was try to break into a federal building. We could trust them to not break out.
And yet there are reports of people being held and demands for admission of guilt, and they have not been shown the evidence against them. They've not.
That's in court, fucko. Again, this is a former judge. I mean, of course, hog calling contest, but still a judge.
Been shown.
Gozar's jerking it. That's so horrifying. If they pulled back and he's like, and then Gaetz is like, "You need some help with that?" It would just.
The exonerating exculpatory evidence as required by law.
What? Exonerating exculpatory evidence as required by law? Wait, what?
Shown the evidence against them, the admission of guilt, and they have not been shown the evidence against them. They've not been shown the exonerating exculpatory evidence as required by law.
What exonerating exculpatory evidence, asshole? They're using the video of them from them. What, I'm sorry, were they Facebook living from a totally different insurrection? And it was, that was a state capitol miles away. I wasn't there. I was beating the shit out of an Iowa Capitol guard. That's not Fanon. This guy's not even, look, what exculpatory evidence? And if they haven't been shown the evidence, quote unquote, the evidence against them, maybe they will when they get their phone back. What the hell?
So there are a lot of problems going on here. Now, for anybody that, for example,
apparently there's a rape happening nearby and you're doing nothing,
is out on bond and then calls in nasty messages to the pretrial release, I got no problem sending them back to jail for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you get out and you make a nasty call, you're going back in. But if you get out and just make a run for it, or plan the next attack, I mean, you can do that quietly.
But we still need to know, do we have political prisoners here in America?
No, you don't. They all have lawyers. They either have their own lawyers or court-appointed lawyers. What the fuck are you talking about? Even political prisoners, even the people at Guantanamo technically have lawyers provided to them. Do we have political prisoners in America? What?
Or not. And we
Not.
can't get an answer. And I was taught in the Army that normally no answer is an answer of no. or an answer that, yes, what you're concerned about is happening, so we're not going to answer.
Well, so I had that crocheted on a pillow in the barracks. What the hell? The Blues Brother in the back. That's Biggs, isn't it? Or Banks? It's Biggs. It's Biggs.
So in any event,
What was I? What was that? Wait.
No an answer in America or not. And we can't get an answer. And I was taught in the Army that normally no answer is an answer of no, or an
All right, sure. I mean, they're pretty direct in the Army.
answer that, yes, what you're concerned about is happening, so we're not going to answer.
That's the shorter version of that is no means no, or no means none of your fucking business, move along. That's what that is. Louis, that's what they're saying. None of your goddamn business. Stop trying to interfere politically in a criminal investigation. We have arrested trespassers who committed violent acts, who beat cops and savaged them and attacked the building, and we have plenty of evidence from their own goddamn... There is no exonerating, exculpatory magic evidence of what? Of what? And what he's asking for is for politicians to be able to go into jails and go let them out, which is what they accuse Democrats of doing because allegedly they posted bail for a lot of rioters and looters, which they actually posted bail for people who were protesting, who were picked up because they were near the rioting and the looting but didn't do it themselves. But never mind.
So in any event, that's why we're here.
I thought you were here because you're late for a game.
That's why we would come out and subject ourselves to standing up for people, whether they've done right or wrong. They deserve to be treated properly.
Yes, and proper treatment of them, for the record, would be I'm going to go with jail time. And I do appreciate that Louis Gohmert is concerned about their safety and their well-being. But from me to Louis Gohmert and all the people standing outside on this particular day, I would like to say, just because I wasn't there to actually do the whistle myself. Sorry. Okay.
We're here standing up.
Where's here? Where's here? Where's here?
For due process.
And by the way, in case you missed that, he said we's here standing up for due process, because a lot of these dupes that attack the Capitol have not been processed yet.
All for due process all of my professional career. I don't know if there's anybody else in Congress that has represented a defendant who was sentenced to be put to death and who represented him for the highest courts and got his case reversed as I did. And as I told the court...
I don't know what he's talking about. Good for you, Louis, though. Louis.
The highest criminal court in Texas...
Looney, sorry, I mispronounced his name.
Back when I argued his case. Look, I'm here to make sure...
Gozars, do you hear something? I can barely hear anything through this Pervitin haze.
That we have due process. That people...
Yes, they are getting their due process. None of them are being held without bail, without having first had a hearing. Many of them have been released either with an ankle monitor or on bail or bond. What lack of due process? They have lawyers. Their lawyers are getting any information. The footage they posted themselves is most of the incriminating evidence.
That are brought to trial have an opportunity to have a fair trial, to get due process, to see the evidence against them, and to actually see any exonerating evidence. Didn't happen in that case. His case was reversed. So,
Louis, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you think they're going to do? Let's get DNA swabs from the Trump hotel.
I'm here just to try to see that due process is done.
Yeah, that's what you're there for. Part of due process would be to go through the legal system without any political interference.
And I'm pleased to be standing with other concerned people from Congress about what is being happened. Are we
Yeah, what is being happened?
housing political prisoners? We need to know the answers.
I can tell you. No.
So with that, I would turn things over to my friend Matt Gaetz.
My friend Matt Gaetz.
Honored to be here with my colleague Louis Gohmert from the House Judiciary Committee, and we're wondering why questions that have been asked by colleagues for many months have gone unanswered.
Because it's none of your goddamn business, and politicians should not be interfering in ongoing investigations and the legal concerns of citizens who are arrested for trespassing, violently attacking the Capitol, attacking police officers, or destroying public property. Honest to God, there is a legal reason why they're telling these assholes to go pound sand, because they are interfering in the normal procedure of the legal system. They are not. They are interfering in due process. Part of due process is you are not due an assist from someone who's politically on your side of the aisle that would get you out of jail. Nobody is due that. The system does not owe you getting broken out of the hooskow by the future, I guess, participants in the legal system, especially.
Perhaps there are reasonable explanations for why.
Yeah, there's reasonable explanations for why. 2 words: fuck and you. Yeah, bye.
The Attorney General hasn't been forthcoming with
Yeah, they don't have to come forth.
information regarding
The hooskow. Yeah, the cement condo, the big house.
particular detainees, but as
Detainees. This bullshit's pissing me off. Detainees. And by the way, if Vanilla ISIS ever applied, it's this bullshit.
folks representing all Americans, we think that we've got to get those answers. Antifa and BLM set fires to this country for months, and we did not see an interest from federal law enforcement in those claims.
The fuck we didn't? What are you talking about? Of course we did. We saw... Okay. I mean, maybe he just doesn't bother to look. Maybe that's what's up. If I may... let's see. Let's see. Riot... arrests... Let's see. What's... Oh, sorry. What's a good... federal charges. I'm just gonna, July 2020. Let's just do that. Let's just grab that. Here you go. This is, I mean, now granted, I have to, maybe I owe Matt Gaetz, a little wiggle room. I wasn't going to say apology, but this is kind of important. He doesn't probably have access to this. But here's the United States Attorney's Office, District of Oregon. 74 people facing federal charges for crimes committed during the Portland demonstrations. That's 74. In one city. That wasn't the capital. Billy Williams announced 74 people are facing federal charges for crimes committed adjacent to or under the guise of peaceful demonstrations in Portland since at least May 29th of 2020. For more than 90 consecutive nights, Portland's been home to large demonstrations. Violent agitators have hijacked any semblance of First Amendment protected activity, engaging in violent criminal acts and destruction of public safety. The U.S. Attorney's Office and our federal law enforcement partners. What's this federal? But Matt Gaetz, I thought you said the federal system had no interest in said thing. In the federal of the law enforcement. Let's see. Partners are expeditiously working with local and state law enforcement to identify, that seems like a key part of it, arrest, and prosecute these individuals. FBI supports and safeguards constitutionally protected activities and civil rights, but there is no permit for assault, arson, or property damage, and there are no victimless crimes. Among the victims of violent crimes are business owners, residents, and individuals exercising their First Amendment rights through protests or other legitimate forms of expression. The nightly violence has to stop. This is from, I don't know what August 27th, 2020. So this isn't even from this year. This is just a 4-month gathering. Within this 4-month period, they had 74 people facing federal charges. They had a bunch of people charged locally and in the state. But yeah, I mean, why would Matt Gaetz, a sitting member of Congress who is defending people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, why would he even be aware of something like that? Why? I mean, it's not like he can do a 2-second Google search or ask the DOJ for a brief.
But now there are Americans all over
By the way, just in case we lost sight of
law enforcement in months, and we did not see an interest from federal law enforcement in those claims. But now there are Americans all over this country who are being harassed, who are being targeted by law enforcement, and if there's a basis for that, then we need to make sure that we get it, and that's why we're here answering.
If there's a basis, what, for targeted harassment? That we get it? Okay, first of all, it's not targeted harassment. It's an investigation. They're trying to find these fuckers and bring them in. The harassment is, have you seen this asshole? That's the harassment. And that it's showing up on the FBI's social media websites and the like. By the way, I'm certain, as a matter of fact, that no one agrees with Matt Gaetz more than the 74 people that were charged federally in Portland alone between May and August of last year. But please, continue, dum-dum.
These questions. Honored to be here with my colleagues, and would now turn it over to Congressman Paul Gosar.
Uh-oh. Thank you, everybody. I, too, am happy to join my Republican colleagues and demand the answers to very troubling reports that the Biden administration and Justice Department are...
Hold on. By the way, the Biden administration and the Justice Department are mistreating people.
Treating nonviolent prisoners arrested in connection with January 6th. Let me make this perfectly clear. I deplore violence. That's why I've asked for the 1,400 hours of tapes to be released so that we can hold those wrongdoers accountable and those vindicated when they're innocent. Over 6 months have passed, nearly 200...
Nobody who passed the barriers on January 6th is innocent. No one. Just because you didn't knock the cops out of the way doesn't make you not culpable in the cops being knocked out of the way. Just because you didn't break the door down and you just walked through the door that was broken down does not mean you are not culpable for the breaking down of that door. Nobody, if 4 of your friends burglarize a fucking house, they don't get the first guy on B&E, the one who crowbarred the window, and everybody else is just sightseeing, checking out real estate trends.
These individuals remain separated from their families.
Yes, that's what happens when you're a criminal. You are separated from your family. By the way, I'm sure you were very concerned about people who cross the border as family units and their unaccompanied minors that were made unaccompanied by the Trump administration versus the real unaccompanied minors that are crossing the border by themselves right now. Thank you, Al Power.
Reports that some of these prisoners
Is this his Joe Cocker imitation? At some point, we need to find out. I don't want to, be ableist if this dude has a real problem, but it does look like he's whacked out of his gourd and it's getting worse. But what would I do if he sang out of tune? I would stand, walk out on me. All right.
Being abused and held in solitary confinement for up to 23 hours a day. These are not unruly or dangerous violent criminals.
Well, apparently once they got in, they were fucking with everybody, so yeah.
These are political prisoners who are now being persecuted and bearing the pain of unjust suffering. Individuals
Is it Parkinson's? Okay.
For illegal
because I have not heard any legit conversation about his stuff.
Acts on January 6th deserve to be treated fairly. We are here today to demand that all evidence gathered by the DOJ be produced. That's why I have constantly, and I reiterate, asked for the 1,400 hours of tapes to be released so that we can hold people accountable and vindicate those that are innocent. The public demands it, and it's a
Again, they keep repeating this talking point that somehow if you just walked in there, you're fine. Like the people who were allowed in through some of the doors because the cops were diverting people away from the attack areas, intentionally allowing them into an area where they knew they could not reach the House members and the Senate members who were there. They let them in certain doors. Those people were illegally trespassing. Those cops were not letting them in like it was just when the Capitol Police can give their own tours. They were diverting the crowd to areas that were already secure. So those people who just walked into, I was let in. Yeah, you were let in because they were trying to keep you from barging in another area where people were in danger that you might kill because you might have been late to get there. Maybe you weren't the people on the vanguard who busted in. Maybe you weren't the people who broke a window because you were too busy building the fucking gallows. I guarantee that the people who built the gallows on the Capitol grounds were late to the push through the door and strolled into the place comparatively.
defendants deserve equal justice under the law. How is it that those that are not even citizens get better treatment and have due process at Gitmo when they don't have it here?
They don't. They've been sitting in Gitmo for decades.
I also want to ask...
And all of these people have lawyers. What the fuck are you talking about? There is no point in this where the people who are being put in, if they're being put in solitary confinement, it's because they're spitting on guards and calling them UN shock troops.
Where is the groups like Amnesty International, the ACLU, and Human Rights Watch? I'm here with my colleagues, with my members.
I'll tell you where they are. They're laughing at your assertions.
Oversight to actually ask for those questions and have oversight of our...
Yes, Amnesty International has a specialist in charge of making sure people get organic food if they're watching their weight and their salt intake. They have the ACLU has a lawyer just in charge of making sure you get to wear your hat in jail.
Prison. Thank you for attending, and now I turn it over to Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today.
Everyone is not there, by the way. A good portion of people are over at the actual January 6th committee thing. You're outside the Department of Justice for no fucking reason. As a matter of fact, they are in the... I take that back. They are there for a reason. They are there to interrupt the procedures of justice to benefit followers of their political philosophy. This is like the Church of Scientology bailing out Danny Masterson.
I am delighted to be here with my
Yeah, why wouldn't you be?
colleagues on this important issue.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be downwind of Louis Gohmert?
You know, it wasn't too many weeks ago that we had a
It's
hearing
never too many weeks ago.
in Congress where the FBI director addressed the January 6th issue to some extent.
It's an issue. It really is. January 6th is just an issue. I have the January 6th issue. It's got a great centerfold.
He mentioned that there was the vast majority of people who were peaceful protesters.
Yeah, there were a couple of... Yeah, the vast majority of peaceful protesters. And by the way, please, can we just put a pin in the idea of protests last year and rioting and looting and how they basically painted everybody who was protesting as a rioter and looter, and now they want to inverse that 90-10 scale for their own benefit. Like, tiring.
Then he said there was a smaller group, a much smaller group that entered the Capitol.
Yes, a smaller group than the 100,000 people that were gathered on the lawn. About 9,000 to 10,000 people stormed the Capitol. Somewhere in the order of 600 to 700 of them have been charged. Others are being looked for. 9,000. It's a little clique of 9,000 people.
And committed what we would consider technical crimes, things like
Technical crimes. Yeah, I will give you that. It is technically a crime to try and gouge a cop's eyes out with a Blue Lives Matter flag. I mean, if you want to get all technical.
trespass.
No. No one's getting busted just for trespass. They're getting to plead down to trespassing from kicking in a door and smearing shit on the walls. Everybody else, the people that they're talking about, are spitting on guards and threatening their lives and their families because they think they work for a cabal of baby-eating pedivores.
And then a very small group that attacked the Capitol Police and vandalized the Capitol.
No. If you crossed the lines that the cops were initially holding, and you were aware that those cops had been holding that line, you weren't just technically trespassing. You were storming the Capitol. Fuck off.
As he said at the time,
Thank you for the super chat, Pigman. When Trader Green says detainee, she means persons held in custody, especially for political reasons. Oh, I know she means that. I also think it's lunacy, and it's a diversionary tactic. It's a linguistic twisting. It's a PR move.
response to a question from...
They're not being held for political reasons. They are being held because they committed a crime and they're a danger to society. Like why we hold all other criminals.
One of the congressmen from California said, I can't call this an insurrection. Why? Because I am bound to have legal definitions. An insurrection has a legal definition. So he said, I can't call it that.
Yeah, he's wrong. And?
Was very, very interesting to me.
Okay, tell us what's interesting.
To hear that testimony from Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI.
Mm-hmm. The Trump appointee. Go ahead.
Just moments ago, I came from a hearing in Congress in the crime subcommittee in which I'm the ranking member.
He is rank. Yeah, no citation needed.
And in that committee hearing, we were talking about fines and fees and how they can be excessive and how they violate the due process rights and put people on a collision course of reoffending. I find that very interesting, juxtaposed to where we are today.
Oh, you mean people who can't pay like driving on a suspended license fines, and therefore they have to drive for work. So while they're trying to work it out, or while they're trying to get a court date, they get pulled over again, and then they can't. And there's a warrant during that time for their arrest, so they get pulled into the system, and then it just folds and folds and folds. Versus guy tries to gouge a cop's eye out, and then when he gets into Nancy Pelosi's office, smears shit on the walls while he steals a laptop, hands it to somebody who tries to sell it to Russia. Yeah, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
What we have here today is
a bunch of assholes blathering in front of a building and having absolutely no impact on the process. None. The best part besides what's coming up, I think, of this whole gathering is that it is absolutely useless. It's not even good campaign fodder for ads for them. It's just a waste of fucking time. That's what this is. This is a complete waste of time. And that there's certain...
a group of congressmen and women who have asked questions, who said, look, we really want to know, we want to get to the bottom of it. How are these individuals being treated?
They're being treated like everybody else who spits on a guard and calls them a baby killer and says, I know where you live. You're going to end up in solitary. That's what's going to happen. Just for the record.
While they await their day in court.
One of the things they're going to do is get regular contact with their lawyer daily if they want it, free of charge, on us. Isn't that sweet? I mean, it's the same thing as being an ISIS or Al Qaeda member in Guantanamo. You know what I mean? It's yeah. What's the difference, really?
Some are being held without bail.
Yes, they're dangerous. They attacked police officers. Anybody who attacks a police officer is way more likely to attack one of their fellow citizens.
Some are reportedly being held in solitary confinement for no rational reason.
Well, they're not rational people, so that makes sense.
So it leaves us to wonder,
What your definition of rational is?
are their rights being protected? We've got to recognize their due process rights.
Talk to their lawyers. Do a statement with their lawyers, because their lawyers will be obligated as officers of the court to tell the truth within certain parameters, obviously, while still advocating for the innocence or the not, that their client is not guilty, not technically innocent, because nobody's found innocent by a court, just not guilty. But why don't you bring them out, and then you'll see where they have a limit on the bullshit they can agree with you on. And that, well, never mind. It wastes too much time.
Rights for everyone. Everyone.
Everyone. Kumbaya, my lord.
I would expect it for those who I politically disagree with. I would expect due process rights to be invoked for the most heinous of criminals, because we rely on the rule of law in this country.
Yes, that's what's happening. They're getting every possible chance to fix this. Many of them probably would have been out already if they weren't blathering idiots during their bail hearings. If they weren't just assholes or thinking that they'd been sent by President Trump and that he was still president and they were acting as his personal assassins on that day, maybe, just maybe, they'd be out already. But they're not, because they don't. They currently believe that they are agents of the former president, and if you let them out, it will be their responsibility to save America by gathering another group together and attacking Congresspeople. This time they might not try it on the Capitol steps, because it's a little, it's going to be more fortified. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be a lot of changes made that will make it more difficult for an attack like that. So they're just going to have to get their personal information and just strike them personally. Yeah, tiny little broken up hit squads, divide and conquer, that kind of thing.
Everyone is to be treated equally and similarly before the law.
No. Equally, possibly. Similarly, no. A person who attacked a cop with a flagpole and tried to beat him to death while other people were trying to steal his gun and shoot him with it are going to be treated differently than people who are going to get cited for trespassing because they were on Capitol grounds but didn't cross the line where the people had driven the cops back.
All have their day.
See that somebody's in the chat saying, I thought this presser was broken up by protesters. It went on almost the entirety of their press conference. As a matter of fact, so much so, you might even have an argument that they wanted some of the protests there, except for the Whistler or whatever, but they wanted somebody to come in at the end and go, they don't even want us to be able to speak. We have 666 watching right now. There's 666 people watching right now just in the YouTube chat room. You know what time it is. It's time for a 666-a-thon, $6.66 super chat to help us buy 666 Fifth Avenue. And I know what you're thinking, Hal, you'll never make enough money to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. Well, neither did Jared Kushner, and it didn't stop him. So fire away.
And we've asked questions, and they've been ignored.
Yeah, that's because that's due process. Part of due process is that at any point during your trial or during your investigation or during your arrest, anybody who comes up and asks questions they don't have the right to know because it might prejudice a jury, it might leak information, it might stymie the investigation, or it might allow the person who's being investigated to, skip town. Those people are all told to fuck off. That's part of due process. That's the part of the due process I enjoy. It's the part where Bosch tells the reporter to go pound sand because the killer is going to get away if he blathers about all the details.
Not just been ignored by
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, LM.
We've asked questions of other agencies about other issues. They've all gone ignored.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, part of due process is ignoring every one of these assholes.
That is why we're here.
Thanks, Rex. Thanks,
We're
Shadowski.
not here to do more than say, give us the answers to the questions we've asked. Let us know.
Yeah, no. The answer is piss off.
The due process is going
Thank you,
forward.
Rhonda. Thank you, Jill.
Let us know that these people are being treated.
Thank you, Frank and Smithberry. Aw, you guys. I was kind of joking, but that's lovely. Joseph, thank you so much. It really does help. Every little bit helps. I always forget to try and, remind people about super chats and all that kind of stuff and supporting the show. And thank you guys for even letting my joke reminders work. Appreciate it.
Appropriately and fairly and humanely. That is not too much to ask.
Yes, and it's not too much to answer. Fuck off.
From the United States government, the United States Department of Justice, the United States Department of Prisons.
Look at those Motangs bouncing over in the cup.
I thank you for being here. I hope that we can get answers to these questions
No, you won't. You're not going to get any answers to those questions. Bye.
very soon. Thank you. I'll turn the time now over to my friend, the Congressman from Virginia, Bob Good.
We see another example of the intolerant left who doesn't
Yeah,
allow
that's-
you to hear speech that they don't like. And this is an issue that I...
Yeah, that's why they're there. I think it might be that you have a guy who fucked a sex-trafficked 17-year-old on your panel. And the other lady over there, she thinks that the January 6th was warranted. Because in reality, if neither of these two were there, first of all, no one would show up at all. No press would show up at all. But secondly, no one would care. There would be no protesters.
been asked about by my constituents around the district over the past several months.
Yeah, that's what you've been asked about.
Why don't we know what's going on with the folks who've been arrested from the
Because it's none of your goddamn business?
January 6th incident? And so we're here today. We requested a meeting with the Attorney General, and of course we didn't get that meeting, so we're here.
Yeah, you have to call ahead, dude. He's a busy dude. He's got there's a lot of justicing in that departmenting that's going on at that department. There's a lot of different departments. What kind of justice are you looking for?
Here today with my friends and colleagues seeking one thing: transparency.
Yes, you have all been transparently political and full of shit. Congratulations, success.
And I agree with my friend Congressman Gohmert that the events on January 6th were
That it should be called a toothbrush after all.
simply appalling, despite what the media will
Teeth brush is divisive and exclusionary and does not take into account tooth-challenged people.
tell you. Everyone here today condemned the lawlessness of January 6th.
Yeah, they just have different ideas of what was considered lawless.
While also defending the constitutional rights of those who were here peacefully and lawfully protesting.
Yeah, those people didn't have a problem. The people who watched the rally and then went left instead of right and walked away from the Capitol, it's funny how few of them are in solitary confinement right now. I'm sure it's not none. They were a bunch of Trump supporters. But it'll probably be for some, local domestic violence charge or an Asian hate crime. But anything else...
So we're here today demanding answers to serious questions
Inserious people want serious answers.
that the Department of Justice has ignored over these past several months, despite repeated inquiries from
I will not be ignored.
my colleagues and other members of Congress regarding the treatment of the January 6th defendants.
Uh-huh.
In this country, there should be no question about the legal treatment of an American prior to the opportunity to answer the charges brought against them before a judge or a jury of their peers. Due process must be afforded to all Americans, period.
Yeah, exactly.
Sadly, many question
Yeah, no. That's exactly why you guys should not be interfering in this at all. Because you are trying to interrupt due process. I'm just saying. Just for the
serious questions previously presented by my colleagues have not been answered, but have been completely ignored by Attorney General Garland
Well, I'm glad he's doing his job.
and the Department of Justice. While it's clear
Yeah, the entire building has told you to fuck off. Did they do it all on a line? Please tell me you went in there and everybody, like there was a staff memorandum that went around. Hey guys, everybody line up in the hall. It's time to tell Louis Gohmert, Matt Gaetz, and Marge Greene and a couple of these other morons to fuck off. It's a fuck off choir from the entire Department of Justice.
that Attorney General
By the way, we got a plane fueled up at the airport so we can fly them to all the federal buildings so they can tell them to fuck off too.
Garland may not be in a rush to respond to us. What is his answer to Defense Counsel Marty Tankleff, who said of the treatment of January 6 defendants, "This is not normal. It's not normal to isolate people and make them eat off the floor.
Yeah, no one's making people eat off the floor. If they knock their food on the floor, is that on them? Thank you, Benny Loco. Remind everybody to give us a thumbs up. And, of course, time for cookies and milk and miscellaneous other snacks. Thank you, Lulu girl.
Mr. Tankloff would know this because he would know what normal treatment is.
No, it's cruel and unusual punishment. Their actions were condemned. Okay, yep.
Because
it is, and by the way, not ordered by the Biden administration. Like, you know the dude with the horns? Yeah, if he wants his organic oatmeal cookies, he can eat them off the goddamn floor. Like, no one said ever.
In detention because he was in prison for almost 20 years before being exonerated for a wrongful murder charge. Should we ignore Mr. Tankliff? Should we also ignore Senators Warren and Senator...
Wait, there was another January 6th, 20 years ago?
Durbin, who both expressed concerns about the accusations regarding January 6th defendants that they were in solitary confinement. I'm pleased that some...
Yes, they and thank you. Thanks for becoming a member, Kim Allen, on YouTube. Yeah, they expressed concern, and then those concerns were answered because they're like, oh, I looked at it, and it makes total sense.
Federal judges have...
Someone needs a large tuba to go along with the whistle.
Intervened on behalf of some of these claims of mistreatment, but there's no substitute for complete transparency in our
there is no
our justice system and the protection of the public trust. Let's remember that back in March, the Department of Justice...
Back in March? Oh, March.
...had to be reprimanded for discussing matters concerning this investigation and speculating on potential charges with the media, with prosecutors even being threatened with a gag order. I cannot remember that happening previously where the Department of Justice had to be reprimanded to not speculate on the media regarding a high-profile case. It's fortunate...
What high-profile case? It's a couple of trespassers.
It's unfortunate that members of Congress have received only silence from the Department of Justice regarding the treatment of these defendants based upon concerns arising from statements made under oath. Yet the Department of Justice has not speculated...
Here comes the First Lady.
...but not hesitated to speculate...
She's allowed to walk on the sidewalk, I'm sorry.
...about this investigation...
You should have moved closer to the building.
...to their friends in the media.
Traitors and rapists plus rapists equals shut down.
A former judge, no less.
Oh, there you go. Pedophiles for Trump, and there's a giant floating Trump showed up. Please tell me that was there the whole time.
For his commitment to the rule of law and to seeking the truth, even in the face of much opposition. Thank you.
I want to say one thing. That is some shit paper mache. I used to work at a Michael's.
First of all, to the guy that's blowing the whistle, we are not deterred. And
yes, you are not deterred. You are the turds. Don't use French in front of these fine people.
So, for anyone that's here being an activist and yelling today, here's a statement that I need everyone to understand.
If you really want to change anything in Congress, go storm the Capitol and beat the shit out of a cop. Thanks, Marge. Thanks for saying what needed to be said.
We will not back down.
No, we're not the Capitol Police being bear sprayed.
We will not stop asking questions.
That's because there will never be a time when you actually understand anything enough to articulate a statement.
We are looking...
I'm never afraid to ask questions. I don't really get the answers. Like, I can't process the words that you say when I ask a question, but I can, as your member of Congress, I will always end every sentence with a question mark, and that is just...
for the truth. And we believe the truth can be found by reaching out and answering and asking the right questions.
Yes, answer the right questions. I have a question. Were any of you with Matt Gaetz when he had sex with a 17-year-old who was using ecstasy, who was sex trafficked by his buddy who was making false IDs, largely trying to be a junior Epstein? By the way, in that process and during that time, this is before Epstein got arrested, too. So, did you guys hang? I mean, you're from the same area.
The right people.
Answer that question.
Listen, there's another thing.
There is another thing. It's the same whistle. I thought it was another thing, too. It's the same.
The taxpayers of this country pay all of these people's salaries, and they owe the people of this country the answers to the questions.
No, they do not. As a matter of fact, you know who's also taxpayers? And this might strike you as weird, Marge. But it's not a technical kind of a thing. Kind of like it's technically a crime to bear spray a cop when they're trying to keep you from trespassing. Technically, one of the things that is true of all the people who stormed the Capitol for a large part is that they are also allegedly taxpayers, and they pay their taxes. They pay their taxes as taxpayers for the purpose of the, partly at least, for the judicial system to work the way it's supposed to, and not to have it mangled by political psychopaths like yourself who are trying to free people who are in your cult or in your little, conservative version of the Weather Underground over here. Why hasn't there been kind of a... Well, she's the sex guru. What would be good for her? The Leather Underground? No, we'd all be for that. The Heather's Underground? That's fairly close. The Weather Undergrads. We'll figure it out. All these, the signs say traitors and rapists sit down. Both of them, by the way, relatively matching signs. Both handwritten though, but fairly close. The Tantric Underground, that's good. The Heathens Underground, we'll get there. But this is the conservative version of the Weather Underground, arguing that they're set our political brothers and sisters free. All they did was try to kill people. The Winter Underground, the sweatier Underground. We'll figure it out. I like it. The Rapist Underground? Yeah, that works. The Nestor Underground. The Nestor Underground. Oh, yeah. A little inside, but sure. But yeah, I mean, and in reality, if this was black and white and took place in the early 70s, late 60s, it would be completely reasonable that these were members of the SDS trying to get somebody that, planted pipe bombs at a state building set free.
Okay.
The left is interrupting the press conference.
The left. So let me get this right. The left are the only people. This is how you know them by their signs, by the way. They didn't ask any of these people, like, are you a Marxist or are you for Medicare for all? Like, what's your thing? None of them asked people that. They just looked at their signs and knew they were leftists. And the way they describe the left, apparently, is this says, this Vets for Democracy. January 6th was an inside job. And then this says, traitors and rapists sit down. So clearly leftists, because no one on the right wants traitors and rapists to not have their say in our society. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Thank you. For those of you...
Louis, it's over. Louis, they're leaving already. Louis, you're being left behind, like Kirk Cameron in a dentist's office.
Really care about due process. Thank you.
And by the way, this guy is he one of Matt Gaetz's security guys? Because he's got kind of a personal thing. I don't know if he's a congressional aide. I'm curious. Dude, you can stop blowing the whistle. They're already gone. Thank you. See? Leftists can listen. She's just gonna... I want somebody to walk out from the Department of Justice and look at the podium and go, so you guys are just gonna leave this shit here? Or what? There's one guy over here. Jim will wrestle the podium to the ground while I sit here and watch from the safety of the van. Okay, so that was the interrupted one.